Prior to watching this video, you might want to get your own copy of the Critical Analysis Assignment Sheet. We'll be looking at page 3, the very last page of it, which looks like this, and the sample that you were given. APA documentation, people have problems with. I hope in high school, use some form of documentation for some research paper you did at some time. You probably used MLA, and that's fine. I prefer MLA. I think it has strong features that make it better than APA, but we use APA, the American Psychological Association format, because our courses, our curriculum that we teach, tends to lend itself to using that more so. We are more of a science, technology, medical sort of school. So we're stuck with APA. Rather than make you get a whole book, I've just boiled it down for you where what you need for this assignment is on this sheet. Now, the reason APA documentation is beautiful is because in papers where you present other people's ideas, you need a way of giving them credit, first of all. And once you give them credit, APA also allows other people, if they wish to go to those sources and see for themselves the information presented. Now, you are writing about Leon Nefka's article, and if you happen to quote him, you must do this right here. That is a citation, Nefka. That's what it's called, citation, author, year, page. At the end of the report, you will put Nefka, just copy it, cut and paste it if you're able to. That is the reference. That's what it's called for his article. Now, you only have to cite quotations for Nefka's article. The reason for that is it's obvious that the information is actually from Nefka. And we'll look at Randall's article, or the article about Stephen Randall's, as a sample. Here, Vivian writes, and if you go throughout it, down here, for example, there's no citation. But if you've read the Malving Off in America article, you know that he was presenting these ideas. Well, she didn't quote these, which she shouldn't. Remember, you only quote 10%. But it's understood those are Randall, the author's ideas. So as you present Nefka's ideas only, you don't need to give a citation and all. We understand it's from that because it's obvious. That's why you don't cite it. However, with the quotes, there is a citation, and that's the way they need to be done. That way we know it's Randall speaking. The idea of living in intellectual Costco up here, we know it's his words, and so we need to document that. Now, in the paper, there is also a need for you to use a second source, and I want you to only use one source. I want you to use Nibs. All you need to do is present a quote, a paraphrase, an idea from Nibs one time, and you're cool. You can use it more, certainly. That's fine. Do not use another source. I want you only to use this. You'll use information from Nibs to back up a point you're making about the points being made by Nefka. And this is how you cite it. Just same thing, author, year, page, and Nibs. Now, in the reference list, I remind you, you actually would list it first because it's alphabetic. But for now, just know that Nibs is different, though. We take for granted the subject that you're writing on is Nefka's article. But as you present information from Nibs, it doesn't matter if it's a quote or a paraphrase or a summary, you must cite it. Now, Vivian, in her paper that she did, has a section. You certainly don't have to do this, but she actually had a full paragraph that was pretty much from another source, and you need not do that, but that's the way she chose to do it, and that's fine. But you'll notice here she presents information, and you don't have to necessarily list the article name, but she did. But if she simply said Ashley Thorne laments, and you could put that, but she has the date here, and I'll get to what she's doing there in just a minute. She has the author here, the date here, and the page. She does the same thing down here, just in a single citation, and that's fine. And that's just dandy. Now back to the sheet. What you need to do is make sure it's clear where information is coming from. And this is an excerpt from a document, Research Essentials, I called it, that I gave to my 122 classes who write research reports, and that's what this is from. But I think in a very concise manner, I'm showing you a few options for how to actually write out this information. Now, for this particular sample, this is the book, Ptolemy, S. 2016, A Beginner's Guide to Depression, etc. That's from a book. And in 102, you'll find out much more about it. I'm just making it easy for you. I'm giving you all the information here. Okay. But here, there are a few different versions. Up here, there's simply, I give the information, and I put a citation at the end, and that's just fine. And up here, you can put the author's name, then put a citation. And there's a quote. And I want to point out this is a quote. And notice it's not a full sentence. I want to encourage you, and there's an example in Vivian's piece. If you present quotes, you're better off presenting usually just a phrase, some keywords, than entire sentences. It uses your quote budget a bit more economically. You don't want to exceed 10%. It doesn't take a lot in a paper this length if you're quoting 2-3 sentences in a row a number of times. Before you know it, you have a paper that really isn't your own. Now, here is a particular example of something I want you to note, and this is very important. The parenthesis here, that will always indicate the author, which will be either Nefka or Nibs. Always. That's what goes in this parenthesis. But Nibs and Nefka both present a lot of information, even quotes from other people, not themselves. Both of them present other ideas. And if you're presenting a quote, you need to make sure that the person speaking, so to speak, is the author. If it's not the author, you need to make it clear who it is. Now, here in the example up here, this is the author speaking, and that's fine. And so we didn't put a citation, parenthesis, Ptolemy 2016, page 24 at the end, because that would be redundant. Here, this citation is placed where it is because in the running text up here, the person writing makes it clear Ptolemy here is quoting Dennis Watts and presenting that. In fact, sometimes it depends on where you are. They might, in the parenthesis, want you to put quoted in the particular piece, but we're not going to do that. Just keep it simple like this. To be honest with you, there are general principles that are adhered to when you use APA. Sometimes there's little matters of interpretation, and you always ask the people of authority how to interpret if there's any doubt. Our assignment is very simple. You are presenting information from two sources. The bulk of the information is from Leon Nefka's article, Why You Can't Stop Checking Your Phone. And you must cite and reference all quotes. Nib's article, you might be presenting quotes, paraphrases, or summaries, and you must cite those as well. Remember, you need only use one piece of information from Nibs, and that's all. You're off the hook. That's all you need to do. If you want to use a little more, and it makes sense to you, and it's relevant, and it's good, go for it. But you don't really get extra credit for that, but just make sure I can give you credit for doing this research. We used to, just to be honest, do the critical analysis without any research additional source kind of component or APA documentation. But people greater than myself have decided this is super important. And just to give you a heads up, you go to 102, you're going to be doing a whole lot of APA. And so warm up to this and don't have a bad attitude. Documentation is actually very useful. The beautiful aspect of documentation is this. In the real world, people write research for real reasons. They want to know what's going on. It's just not a teacher who's making you jump through a hoop. And this kind of documentation makes it possible, if I'm a man writing in United States and my article's published, somebody in India can get my article and read it. And the documentation is clear to that person that shows what ideas came not from me but from other sources. And with the proper documentation, that interested person who really wants to know the information can go to the original source, him or herself, find it, and then look at it on their own terms and use it for their purposes. So it's a little bit on APA. That's all I want to say about it. Try not to be confused. But as always, if you're confused, you know what to do. Email with a phone number. Before you do that, look over the materials and be quiet and chill yourself. Take a walk maybe. Often your questions are already answered through the videos and the materials, but it gets complex. Don't get hemmed up. Don't get feeling like you're just going to blow your stack and you're going crazy with it. Shoot me an email and again, put your phone number. It might be easier for me to talk to you than type something. Or I might even send you an attachment. Who knows? But hopefully you won't be confused. If you are, you know what to do. Keep pressing on, and we'll catch up eventually. Bye.